Hey, everybody, welcome to the Addiction Unlimited podcast, where you get to learn everything you want to know about addiction and recovery. I'm your host, Angela Pugh, co-founder of Kansas City Recovery, life coach, and recovering alcoholic. To learn more about me, you can listen to episode 0 on your podcast app or find us on the web at addictionunlimited.com. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Addiction Unlimited podcast. I'm your host, Angela Pugh. I cannot tell you guys how excited I am about this episode today. I'm recording in Kansas City, and I am with one of my favorite people in the whole world. You guys have heard me talk a lot about my sponsorship in the beginning of my sobriety, and I've told that story quite a bit. And Kevin K was my main guy. He was my sponsor for many, many years. He's one of my closest friends. I love him. He's still one of my first calls whenever I have something to really sort out and figure out. And I'm just excited to share him with the world and let you guys get a feel for him and his wisdom and knowledge of sobriety and recovery and the program. So let's welcome Kevin to the show. Hi, Kev.
Hi, Angela. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here today.
Thank you so much for doing this with me. This should be fun.
It is. It's going to be a ball. I'm excited for it.
So tell everybody a little bit about you, probably how long you've been sober, and a little bit about your program, like how you work your program, how you structure it, how it's important for you to do it.
First of all, I just want to always introduce myself as a member of the Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm not a spokesman for AA. I'm just simply my experience, and my sobriety date is August 17th, 1985, and it has been an adventurous one, to say the least. But the bottom line is I haven't taken a drink or a drug in over 33 years.
That's so crazy.
It is crazy, especially for a guy that came in. I didn't even know if I was an alcoholic or not. I just wanted to get out of the house.
You just wanted something to do.
Yeah, when I came in Alcoholics Anonymous or into recovery, I graduated from treatment with honors, like most of us do. I was well-behaved, came out, had all the intentions in the world of staying sober. I just didn't know how. And I stumbled in Alcoholics Anonymous. The first meeting I went to, my ex-brother-in-law, my sister's ex-husband, was in that meeting. And 3 weeks later, he blew his brains out. And but I began to go to AA literally just to get out of the house. I had 2 young children at the time. My kids can't remember me ever taking a drink. For that, I'm truly grateful. And I owe everything to recovery, the steps, 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, and a fellowship that has surrounded me, loved me, embraced me, encouraged me to stay sober. And of anything today, hopefully talk a lot about hope. And that's what AA gave me, was hope. I saw people just like me who were broken, didn't know really much about life and how to get through with life without taking a drink or a drug. We're now productive citizens. And for the first time in recovery, I had a laugh. And I had not laughed probably the whole year before. I was severely depressed. I was shaving in the dark. I was hiding from the United Parcel Man. I wouldn't answer the phone, and I wanted to kill myself every single day. So recovery has changed all that. I came to find out that alcohol and drugs were really not my problem, that my thinking was my problem. I didn't know how to live sober. So you said it was your brother-in-law? Mm-hmm. Yes.
How did that affect you so early in your journey? Like, was it discouraging? Did it scare you? Did it make you feel hopeless at that point?
No, not at all, because by that time when he killed me, I had met a group of people in AA, and I talked about it, and they told me that does not have to be you. They encouraged me, and they told me to continue to come to meetings, to continue to share from my heart, that sometimes people just don't make it.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. I don't know. I'm not an expert at that. I've been at this a long time, and I still don't know why some get it and some don't.
Yeah.
But as far as the discouragement from that event, no, it kind of kicked me upstairs that if I didn't continue to come to these meetings and continue to share, that could very well be waiting for me.
Yeah. I think sometimes, especially families dealing with an addicted person, like we're such frustrating people. As addicts, we have this personality that's pretty challenging. we're also awesome and charming and funny, but we're stubborn and we're obstinate. We're difficult. So I think oftentimes when somebody is in active addiction, I feel like families forget or don't recognize how much despair we have, how much despair we're living with every day. And that's something you and I have always connected about when you said like you wanted to die every day. I wanted to die every day. And I didn't want to die in the way that I had some elaborate plan for suicide. I wasn't like that. I just prayed for it to end. I was so exhausted and I felt so broken. And in my active alcoholism, I didn't think I was fixable. And that's one of the things that recovery and 12 steps did for me, was really taught me that I'm fixable. And that was the piece that then shifted me to want to make this my life's work. Because once I learned that I was fixable, all I wanted to do was help other people figure out they were fixable too. That I wasn't just broken beyond repair and not worth spending time on anymore, right? It wasn't hopeless.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what happened to me. I really didn't know what was wrong with me. I thought I was alone. I was isolated. I didn't know why I thought the way that I did, why I did the things I didn't want to do. And it can't come in and with a bunch of people who thought the same way.
Right.
When I would say some crazy things, they would nod their head.
Right. And in the rooms, like, we laugh. Like, you can say something absurd and we all laugh because we understand it and we've been there. Right. And that's not a reaction that I get at Thanksgiving dinner with my family.
No.
When I share my stories.
No, I don't get that. And I came from a household where there really wasn't a whole lot of understanding. My mom was bipolar. Anybody that's lived in a household where one of your parents is, you don't know what you're walking into every day, in and out in mental institutions, was just ill. And then a father who didn't understand and who was trying to maintain his family, working 3 jobs. So the escape that I had from all that was athletics. It was my friends. But when I found, I don't know about you guys, but when I found that drink, that first time when I took that drink and it came down and it exploded into my, it made my lips go numb. And I had a brief period of, I was laughing. It probably was 10, 15 minutes. And I got sick, threw up, passed out, blacked out. Woke up the next day, and I couldn't wait to do it again.
Right.
Because that was the most important. This is why people drink.
Right.
And it made me bigger, faster, stronger, taller, everything. Alcohol was the answer, and I spent my next 14 years or so trying to recapture that feeling.
We talk so much, we use the phrase cunning, baffling, and powerful. And I think that's one of the most baffling and cunning things about alcohol is I feel like it will give you whatever you're looking for. So if I'm sad, it will make me happy. If I'm happy, it'll make me happier. If I can't sleep, I can have a couple drinks that'll help me sleep. If I'm anxious, I can have a couple drinks that'll take the edge off. Like, it will give you whatever you're looking for. And unfortunately, that is what separates how I drink from how a non-addicted person drinks, because I use it to achieve those effects, where a non-addicted person does not use alcohol to change how they feel. That's just it. So, But yeah, it kind of reels you in though. And you don't realize when you're in that process, you don't realize that you're getting trapped.
Right. Alcohol is very seductive. And because what do they say? It's first of all, it's fun. Then it's fun with problems. Then it's problems.
Then it's just problems.
And that's the way it was for me. I had a good run. Alcohol was not my problem. It was my solution.
Right.
And I learned to cope with life because of alcohol. And what it did was it seemed that it stunted my ability to grow emotionally.
Yes.
Where a lot of people, if they had a breakup or a heartache or rejected or didn't win or lost or whatever it was, got through it by talking about it or whatever they do, I drank.
Yes.
And
that became my coping mechanism.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't think people who are not alcoholic, they depend upon alcohol. Doesn't mean they don't have many of our same problems, because they do.
Sure.
But we use alcohol as the solution. And what happens is, once we cross the line, our mind blocks out. It seems that we can't remember of even a week or a month ago. We're out without defense against the first drink because we think that drink is going to make it okay again. And we forget what happens, the consequences that have occurred once you've crossed the line.
Right. A question I get asked pretty regularly is if I've ever relapsed, and I have not, knock on wood, thus far. And then people ask, like, how do you not relapse? Because it is such a common story. And I think that is truly the thing, is that I realized in the moment that I decided to stop drinking, alcohol was no longer my solution. Alcohol was solely my problem. And I just wanted to get as far away from it as I could possibly get because I knew it was ruining my life. I could trace every problem I had in my life. I could trace it directly to alcohol and to my drinking or my behavior as a result of my drinking, my irresponsibility as a result of my drinking. Everything went back to it. So it just was no longer my solution. It has nothing to offer me. But I feel like people oftentimes still see it as their solution.
Yeah, they do. And I don't know what it takes. It talks about you have to reach a point of hopelessness and helplessness and desperation, because if you don't, you won't change what needs to be changed. The only way to recover is that you have to be abstinent from alcohol so you can work on your real problem, which is your inner self. And that's why being sober is so important, because you have no chance.
Right.
Unless you're sober. Because who wants to give and sacrifice for others? Who wants to make amends? Who wants to constantly take one's own inventory? I used to say to my sponsor, I goes, how come I'm always wrong? He says, because you are.
Right.
He goes, how come I have to make that amends? Because you do.
That's right.
So the problem is me.
Yeah.
I can fix me.
That's right.
With the help of others. I can't change you. And I spent my entire life trying to change my perception of the world through external things, which was alcohol, which was this or that. Okay, if I make this much money, I'll be okay. Have this house, I'll be okay. Have these number of kids, I'll be okay. I was still always stuck with me.
Right.
So the realization, which is good and bad, well, first of all, I thought it was bad because of the problems with me, but the good thing is that I can change me.
Right.
And because of that, and it has to be one of selflessness. And I know you've taken your career doing that. I don't believe I'll ever take another drink, and that's not a heresy. I believe I won't. I'll do it one day at a time. If I continue to do the things that I did today, get up, ask God for help, help another human being, talk to other alcoholics, drug addicts, give of myself to others, I think I'll be okay. Otherwise, why else would I be in here?
Right.
If I thought I was going to, why else would I be in here? I don't think I'll ever take another drink, but I think I'll do it one day at a time.
For sure, for sure. And it also doesn't mean just because I don't have a desire to drink doesn't mean that I don't have to watch other behaviors, right? Because you hear people say the addictive personality. I have an addictive personality. I have a penchant for compulsivity, period, right? That's the addictive personality. So I don't do one of anything. You know what I mean? Like somebody else might talk about binge watching Netflix, and maybe that means they watch 3 or 4 episodes. I'll watch 10.
Right.
You know, like I'm going all the way. If I do something and I like it, I want to do more of it. So just because I don't have a desire to drink at this stage doesn't mean that I don't have to watch those behaviors in other ways too, because all of those things can get really unhealthy. Binge watching can get unhealthy. Food can be very unhealthy for me. Spending can be unhealthy. Like there's all these other things that my addiction, so to speak, will crop up in other ways. I have to be mindful.
Exactly. And that's what alcohol and drugs did. It covered up the compulsivity. And that's what I do too. I've done all those things.
Yeah.
From working out 2 or 3 times a day, to overworking, to overextending. So it's this stuff is part of the alcoholic personality.
Yeah.
Or addiction personality. And not everybody has that. People talk about moderation. I have, what is that?
Right.
I have no idea what moderation is.
If I understood moderation, I wouldn't be in this mess.
That's right. Exactly.
And moderation doesn't even sound fun, to be honest.
No. I always weighed the consequences versus the amount of fun it's going to be, and I always chose wrong.
Right. Yeah, right. It's part of my problem. I always choose wrong. What would you say in all your years of sobriety, what would you say is your lowest point in your sobriety, your hardest time, and how did you get through it?
That is a great question. I think it occurred in my, believe it or not, my 27th year of sobriety, but because of being overly compulsive. I was doing things, not drinking, not doing drugs, but other things that, and I'll tell you the results. I lost my family, lost my money, lost the respect of my community, became homeless, ended up living in a sober living house, going into a mental institution 2 different times without taking a drink. So on December 31st, 2012, I'm in a garage in a sober living house with one other guy, freezing my tail off, wondering what happened. And I ended up getting a divorce. I was at the lowest point of my life. But because I was still active in AA, was not honest, but hadn't taken a drink, I had a chance to start sharing again, get sponsored again, become open and honest and willing, get out of myself. So it can happen in sobriety, and it did to me. Fast forward 5 years later. My life has never been better. I have remarried to a wonderful woman in the program. The respect of my children has gotten back, my grandchildren. My ex-wife and I are good friends, and I think we always will be. I've made my amends. My career, second, third career, has taken off to where I'm making, not that money has anything to do with it, but it's put me in a position where I can now think about retiring sometime in the next 10 years maybe. But my life, I can go through life without any secrets. And I think that's what happens oftentimes is in sobriety, that we begin to hold on to these secrets, these secret desires and wants and things that we think we need, deserve, and that God or who hasn't provided for us. So we ended up trying to take a shortcut, and the result is just like it was when I was drinking.
That's something I feel like people don't understand too, just like we were talking about a few minutes ago, that those other compulsive behaviors can be equally damaging, especially emotionally. It's equally damaging, and I have to be so careful with certain things. I want to say too that one of my favorite things about you from my very first day of getting sober, I met Kevin the first day that I walked into what is now my home group and has been his home group. One of my favorite things was that level of honesty that you have about who you are, and always saying that just because I'm sober doesn't mean I don't have problems, right? Just because I'm sober doesn't mean that I don't make mistakes. It doesn't mean that my behavior is always perfect. It doesn't mean I don't hurt people anymore, right? I am a human being. I will do those things, unfortunately. It's not intentional, but it's going to happen. And I just always appreciated your level of transparency in that stuff. And there was just an authenticity in that. And I say all the time that, as you know, yourself and Jim J, who is now in Texas, was another one of my people. And I just couldn't wait to get there every day and let you guys know I was still sober. It was so important to me every day to let you guys know and to hear your shares, because the way you would relate the principles of 12 steps and these sort of core principles of how to live life, you would relate it to everyday life in a way that it made sense to me. And I felt like I had a plan that I could then go out in the world, and I kind of knew a little more what to do and how to be to continue to get better. And just such a big part of that was that authenticity, that where you would just be so honest about who you were and mistakes you had made and things you had done in your past and whatever, as a drinking person or not. But I just had so much respect for that. And that's such a valuable piece for me of my sobriety.
Well, thank you so much. I wish I could say it was a virtue, but I learned that I had to do that to stay alive myself. My sponsor told me this. He says, Kev, he says, the failure is not in the failure itself. The failure is in the failure to try. And some of the things we say in Alcoholics Anonymous, one of the last things as we end it is keep coming back. And Bill Wilson, the co-founder of Alcoholics Anonymous, talks about we have to try with a will. However falteringly, continue to try. Never give up. And I think that's one of the things we talked about earlier, Angela, is we want to make sure that people never give up. No matter what happens in their lives, don't give up. One thing I've found out about at least my home group, my people, is we never shoot our wounded.
Mm-hmm.
Now, love takes different sizes and shapes. Sometimes it's a kiss and a hug, and other times it's a kick in the pants. But collectively, what we're just simply trying to do is find the chink in the armor of the person who continues to go back out there. And just maybe, if we don't give up and you don't give up, I think God doesn't make too hard of terms with those who seek Him. And of course, my program's spiritual. That's what Alcoholics Anonymous is. It doesn't define who your God is. That's up to you. But if you don't have a higher power, ultimately you are God. And it says in the big book, he says, this is the here and the why of it. We had to quit playing God. My sponsor put it differently. He says, Kev, the only thing you need to know about God is that you're not it.
Right.
So if you were God, you wouldn't be sitting here with me. And you didn't know if you could stay sober that day. So always remember that. You don't have the answer, just maybe these people do.
Right. That's interesting, too, because that just kind of clicked another perspective for me as you were talking, in that if you don't have some sort of higher power, right, if you don't have something that you have faith in, something that you have faith can restore you to, as we say, restore you to sanity, but restore you to being a normal human being and being a functioning member of society and your family and fellows. If you don't have something to have faith in, you believe that you are the higher power and you're going to make all the decisions and you have all the answers. But the thing is, when I am getting sober, I don't even like me. I certainly don't trust me because my decision-making got me in there, right? My decision-making almost cost me my life and someone else their life. So why would I then want to be the person making the decisions? Exactly. I didn't want to be that person. And for me, for a long time, my higher power really was just my group. It was the noon meeting where you guys were every day. That was my higher power. That's where I couldn't wait to get to. That's where I felt a safety and a comfort that I really had never felt before. It took me a long time to form some sort of other higher power, but I do understand that you have to have that, because I had to have something else to have faith in. I had no faith in me. There had to be something else.
Yeah, but one of the things too, it's a misnomer, at least, is that faith is not required in Alcoholics Anonymous. Faith is acquired. You acquire faith first by seeing it in other people. What AA gives to you, or a recovery program gives, first of all, is hope. And then, by working the steps, being a part of Alcoholics Anonymous, you develop a faith. Not only, first of all, you find a faith that works in other people, and then finally you find it for yourself. And so faith is not required. You acquire a faith, and it continues to get stronger and stronger. Is not only does this faith I don't have to drink, but I can also solve other problems in my life. And it's when we shut the door, become closed-minded, we don't remain honest, open-minded, and willing, we stop developing a faith and we begin to take over as a director of our own life. And it doesn't mean we don't make decisions for ourselves. Of course we do. We have careers and things. But the thing is that I'll do what I think is the next right thing. If it's the wrong thing, I make another decision. Before, I thought I was locked into the decision I made. I make decisions all the time.
Well, and also I would have, when something didn't go my way, I would play the role of the victim, right? I can't believe that didn't work out. I can't believe that happened to me. Things like that. And the truth is, when something doesn't work out, when something doesn't go the way I want it to, it wasn't the right thing. And whatever the right thing is will present itself. We love to play the victim.
Exactly. And I use that not to try for things. Because So if I can't see I'm already going to accomplish it, I won't even try, so I won't have that feeling. And then I'm a perennial victim. And I don't want that. This recovery teaches me is that I can make decisions. If it doesn't go the way that I think it was, it wasn't the right thing.
Right.
Or it might direct me to something else.
To something else, that's right.
And that I always see the answers to life are all around us, at least it seems to me, is what blocks me off from that is my selfishness, self-centeredness, this victimization. The answers to life and to whatever I want to become are all around me. It's my defects of character, this preoccupation with oneself and what I think I need for me. And as they say, I ain't much, but I'm all I think about. And that is true with me. So I'm meant to live life to its fullest, but it has to start through a selfless basis. So, I mean, you've devoted your life to recovery. I do it in AA by sponsoring people, being a part of people's lives, sharing every day. At least I try to. It is fulfilled. My life is so fulfilled in so many ways with my relationship with my wife and my kids and my grandkids, my dad, friends, all kinds of things, all because of AA.
Because of the opportunity to recover and grow up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, growing up is growing up is hard, and especially it's hard in public.
Well, especially when you're already an adult.
Right.
Like I didn't get sober till 33, but mentally and emotionally, I was really probably 17, 18 years old.
Exactly.
So really having to figure it out when you are chronologically in a position that you're supposed to already have it figured out.
Right.
But I was way behind the ball.
I was too. I got sober right then too at 33. I'll be 66 coming up, and there's times I'm still immature. I can still be immature. I look at people that are really mature people, and I don't know how they came up with this stuff. I mean, I still overreact. My feelings get hurt. I'm overly sensitive. I have a sense of fairness and justice, how it fits me, not you or the world. And so I've got to get out of that. And the only way to do that, first of all, I try to make a commitment every day, exactly who and what I am. I'm an alcoholic. I'm in recovery. And what that means is that I have to try to get out of myself every day. And full well knowing I'm going to make a mistake, then try again.
Right.
Yeah, that's something this program, or at least recovery, is not it's ongoing. It's a process.
Yeah.
As we uncover, discover, discard those things that block us off from God and each other. And primarily it's these instincts for more.
Right.
I want more. Prestige, money, power,
things.
Mm-hmm. That'll make me. And lesson is I've got everything right here.
We talk a lot about trying to use outside things to change how we feel on the inside, right? Ultimately, that's what I did with alcohol. I was trying to use alcohol to change how I felt on the inside. Alcohol is just cunning enough that it works to a certain degree, at least temporarily. But then, I will do the same thing with other stuff. Again, like I can be equally addicted to people as I can be to food and alcohol and whatever else. So anytime I'm trying to use outside things to manipulate how I feel on the inside, it is a recipe for disaster.
A friend of mine once told me, and this is what I wrote, is growth through subtraction. The less I become dependent upon these things of this world to validate me, the more I grow spiritually.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that.
And so what I try to do, and what this process is become less dependent on what people think of me, of the things that I can acquire, how things go, or how I perceive they can go, that I am just okay. Now, it doesn't mean I don't have instincts for these things, but the less I become dependent upon them. So it's a growth through subtraction. The less I become dependent upon things of this world, getting my wants satisfied, the closer I get to my higher power and to other people.
Yeah, because the truth is I have to be okay regardless of what's happening on the outside. I have to be able to cope with things and deal with things, and I have to be able to self-regulate to a point. And I have to know the things that work for me too, right? Like my recipe for recovery is a lot of stuff, but it's the things that work for me. So it's meditation and spending time with me and my brain. It's understanding my brain and how to feed it appropriately to be the person that I want to be and have the perspective that I want to have and do those things. It is exercise is hugely important to me for my mental health because I do have anxiety that can be debilitating at times. So like those are my things. That's my recipe. Everybody has to know what their recipe is. But that's what makes me okay internally, regardless of what's happening externally.
Exactly. Early in sobriety, people don't know who and what they are. And
absolutely. Yeah.
So what happens is it's a process of what do I like? If you've been in a relationship all your life, what's it like to be alone? Not that you have to make a decision on one way or the other, but you have to learn to find out what you like, what you don't like, because what happens is addiction takes all that away.
Yeah.
It takes everything away.
Well, and we create our life in a way that revolves around alcohol. Like everything I did revolved around alcohol. I didn't do that intentionally. It's just over the course of the years, that's what happened, right? Because it was my higher power,
Yeah.
you know? So everything I did in my life, all the friends that I had, things that I went to do, places I went, all of it revolved. My work, you know, I was a bartender forever. Everything kind of revolved around alcohol. So when you take that away, I didn't even know what my life was. And I really kind of didn't know who I was. And I remember having conversations with you in the beginning, and you'd say, well, how do you feel? And I would feel so confused by that question because not only could I not talk about feelings, I couldn't even identify them appropriately. You know, I couldn't even sort them out and label them. I just didn't know because I hadn't dealt with feelings in so many years. And then you would follow up and you'd say, well, do you feel like this and this and this? And I was like, yes, that's exactly what I feel. But I could have never formed that sentence. You know, like I had to just learn the fundamental things because I had lost track of that stuff.
Yeah, we do. We lose really who we are, who and what we really are, we don't know. And the process of recovery is beginning, first of all, you begin in the first couple steps, 2 steps or mindset steps. You get convinced that I cannot live like this anymore, that I can't get myself sober. Maybe I'll let someone else help me in the group in many of our cases, and then make a decision and go on with that. And then what really is to find out what makes me tick. And I do that through a series of steps and sharing with other people, getting feedback. And you begin to find out who and what you really are. Then after that, what happens is you begin a plan to find out, to become the best person you can be. And the way to do that is that these things in our lives that we depended upon, they weren't bad or anything. It was just our overdependence upon them. And so the less we become dependent upon those things of our lives, the closer and happier we get. It seems that way to me.
Yeah.
And it's not easy because we tend to go back to our instant fix, which was alcohol, or some other compulsive act to take, because it is not easy. Growing up is hard.
And it takes time. And we are very much instant gratification people, right? Because we're used to reaching for the drink and it works pretty quickly. So there is no instant gratification in growing up or in getting sober, right? It takes time. And that's something that's challenging for us as well. What would you say is your favorite principle of recovery?
It has to do with my character, I guess, is that I have to be loving, kind, patient, tolerant. I think the answer, everything is covered with love, which covers everything. Now, it may not come across as love as sometimes, but I do know this, that I have, in people in recovery, I have their best interest, whether they believe it or not. I always relate to the theory of love is how much, this is the only thing I can relate it to, is how I love my children. I love them so much, I really don't care what they think of me. And that's kind of like my Father in heaven. That's my God. I think he loves me so much, he really doesn't care what I think.
Right.
And so Dr. Bob says, never be brutally honest, temper everything with love. And so I need to temper everything, these loving acts, with kindness and patience and tolerance. I think they're a byproduct of love.
Yeah.
And so, I fail miserably at that because I'm a human being, but those are my principles I want to live. I want to be a person of love. When I hold my kids, when I look at and I'm talking to a sponsee or I'm sharing from the heart, I do much of my meditation in meetings as I listen intently to what people say. How can if that's me, or I've done that, or I can do this or that. I can relate to that. So I savor the words, and what I do is I try to meditate on those, how I can either change or improve, but I'm basically taking my own inventory through meditation and prayer. So the principle of love, which encompasses everything, is really the driving factor of Alcoholics Anonymous. I think there's no other greater organization, because it gives you the freedom to be whomever you want to. There's no restrictions. There's no money to be paid. There's nothing. The only thing you have to do is give of yourself if you want to have a life of happiness.
I've never been a part of anything where people are so loving and kind and generous of themselves and their time and everything with one another like in 12-step programs. Like I've never, like this, I always say this to people, and it's the only place you can walk in and go, hey, I'm moving next weekend. And like 10 people will go, oh, I can help. Where most people like get called, I go, I have to move. Everybody scatters, But in those rooms, it really is a group of people that will love you and offer themselves to you and give you their time and energy and kindness on a level that I have never experienced anywhere else. It is such a blessing.
Yeah, it's the only place I've ever seen in recovery is where you show up and you're a member immediately. You're loved. You're the most important person. Where does that happen?
Yeah.
When every place else has just kicked you out of their lives and these people are opening their arms to you?
Yeah. And I have a built-in family everywhere I go.
Everywhere.
Like I think you have too. We've been to meetings all over the world. Yeah. And I have a built-in family everywhere I go. I have a safety net. Mm-hmm. It's so nice.
It's everywhere.
Yeah.
It's everywhere. Yeah. And so as of today, I hope to remain in recovery,
right?
Because it is every day.
Right.
I have to do these things. I don't get to stay sober on yesterday's actions. I have to continue to recommit to that every day.
Yeah, I love that. You have to actively participate in your recovery, and it is a choice that you have to make on a daily basis. Mm-hmm. To be the best I can be is huge. I think for me, one of the greatest things you taught me from the very beginning was when you're a part of something, you be an active part of it. We're not passive members of anything. And I have taken that through so many pieces of my life and my career and everything that I do. And really, like, we're not just bystanders. You become a part of what you're a part of. And I've seen where it has made such a difference too, even in my impact on people, because it's surprising to people when you're willing to give of yourself so much. But it's just a whole different perspective on everything I do that I've used from my beginning, and it has truly changed my life. And it's one of my favorite things to try to pass on to, is really become a part of. Don't sit by and be a passive member.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head what you're talking about. I have to participate in my own sobriety, and I can't want your sobriety more than you want it.
Right.
And so when we sponsor people, work with people, that's one of the things you've got to want to stay sober for you. I can't want it for you. You don't get sober by sitting next to somebody who's sober.
Right.
You are responsible for your own sobriety. My life is my fault. And I've got to participate in my life. I've never seen anyone get drunk because they were over enthusiastic. I've sure a lot of people that because they weren't.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they were trying too hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't have to be perfect at anything. You just have to try. That's it.
And let people teach you, right? You do have to be teachable.
Always.
For sure.
Always have to be. And that's one thing I work at every day is I'm always the student. I'm never the teacher. And you go through phases in your life. But one of the things I've come out on the other side is I am always the student, that everything is put in my life to teach me something about me.
Yes. Yes.
How to be and how not to be.
And that's something I think as a sponsor for me, as a sponsor too, but doing recovery work, is people tend to think that you've got it all figured out and you've got all the answers. And for me, it's like every conversation I'm having with somebody, I'm learning stuff about myself too, or I'm being reminded of things, right? Maybe when I get really good at being dependable and working hard and being committed to things, I'll get really good in those areas. But then some other stuff starts to slide, So when I'm in those conversations, I'm constantly learning new perspectives or being reminded of other pieces of myself that I need to pay attention to and work on. Like, you're never finished.
Never.
My work is never done. I am a full-time job.
I can't be left unattended.
No, I definitely can't be left unattended. That's not good for anybody. Okay, last question. This is my favorite question. What is your favorite thing about being a sober person?
The freedom that it gives you. I can go anywhere. I am not constrained by that formless, shapeless liquid that controlled everything that I did. My wife and I just got back from Europe, 3 weeks in Europe. I'm free to go to work. I don't have to plan my schedule around drinking. My friends are limitless. It just gives me a sense of freedom. And it all started with the surrender that I'm an alcoholic. And so if anything, I think it's the freedom from bondage that alcohol encased me in.
And there's so much mental freedom in that too, because it doesn't control me anymore. Now I can make some decisions on my own and hold you hostage.
I'm not cubby hold today. I can do anything I want to. I can face fears that I once drank over or stayed in bed over. I can actually face them and think I'm not going to die.
And I don't want to die.
No.
Which is huge for me, right? Because I lived so much of my life where I just thought, every day, I just thought, this is going to be the day that I go to sleep and don't wake up. Like, I literally could not understand how my body could handle what I was doing to it. And I kept waking up, and I was mad every day that I woke up. I was angry, like, oh my God, I have to do this again. It was just exhausting.
I wake up every day with a desire to live life to its fullest. And sometimes it doesn't go off, and I got to start my day over again. But that also gives me the freedom to do that.
Yeah, right.
I don't have to be locked into anything. I make a decision, I can make another decision.
Kev, thank you so much for doing this with me. Always good to have good conversation with you. I always learn something. Keeps me grounded in my roots.
Me too, babe. Love you.
Love you too. Thank you.
You've reached the end of another great episode of the Addiction Unlimited podcast. Candid and honest conversation about addiction and recovery. Be sure to visit us at addictionunlimited.com to join the conversation and access show notes and links to everything we talked about. Love this episode? Please take 30 seconds to subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes to help us improve and give you the information you want. Thanks for listening. See you next week.